is a lawyer and advocate of the High Court, Namoya Otieno, an Associate Director, Africa for Human Rights Watch, and Dr. Alphonse Kanga is the Regional Chair, NCCK, in Nairobi. Coming to you, Wakili Danokaj, given the circumstances and what transpired yesterday, talk to us then about what the president termed as an act of treason yesterday in the breach of the parliament security, saying that this will also bring to the government's long hand the planners, the financiers, the orchestrators, and the abettors of violence and anarchy, whom he said had crossed the red line. What then happens in that regard? I mean, when you talk about treason, given that in Kenya, death penalty is unconstitutional.
Yes, Ayub, one thing I would have hoped for and expected is that the president would have, used this as a watershed moment, taken his time, and maybe issued his speech today. And a speech that is issued at the heat of the moment will come with a lot of issues that will be regrettable. But unfortunately, once out of the tongue, you cannot reverse it. I say that because you look at our constitution, which the president quoted severally. And Article 1, the very first article, sub-article 1, is very clear, and Danvers has read it. All sovereign power, all belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised in accordance with this constitution. Then sub-article 2, through their democratically elected representatives, including the president. So the power is with the people, and that is what people don't understand. If you had the president, it was the reversed way. The power is with them. The other one is the choice. And the reason I say that is because, one, you must understand the context of this. Remember, once this government was given the mandate by the people,
yes,
that mandate is based on what you promised the people. You promised the people, and unfortunately, people are saying, 2 years down the line, they are saying what you promised us is turning out to be lies. That's the first issue. 2, there are a lot of unfulfilled promises by now. 3, there's a lot of procrastination in the realization of those promises. You can't hype it too much. Expectation is a mother of frustration. The more you hype up expectation and you don't fulfill, the more the frustration will come. Now, in terms of that frustration, the people have told you, no, we don't think you are going in the right direction. And there's public participation in every aspect that you do. They have told you. But what is happening is that the government is pushing through its agenda, negating the will of the people. So these people, once you have said that the CS comes and chest thumbs and says, you will demonstrate, fine, but I dare you. That is arrogance. That is boastful. You are already daring them. Instead of knowing that these people came out peacefully the other week, you've dared them. Now, what happens is that after you give that statement, abductions take place in they actually cordon off these areas in the morning. Who is probably given you the power to lead them? But you are shooting them because they are not in agreement with your vision. That is where now treason comes in. And the treason is by the state actors themselves, because you are negating Article 1, sub-article 1 and sub-article 2. Then you come and say that these particular checks and balances that are supposed to be there in the constitution, which is primarily by parliament, but it has still failed and people are still having an issue with that. And that is why there was an affront. If you look at this, they did not just go, which has failed. They actually went to the judiciary, which they are also accusing in terms of failure. They also went to some certain buildings associated with other countries, which they believe is a failure. They also went to businesses associated with the people who they believe are misadvising the president instead of advising. And that is why when they went to parliament, they targeted 2 offices.
Yes.
And it is a message being sent to people. And one thing that is very clear, Ayub, is that the moment you, instead of coming out in a reconciliatory manner, in a manner that says, I have something, in a manner that says that maybe you do not believe me because I've been giving promises and I've not been keeping. Because even that promise, it was a very good promise in yesterday's statement, that I will engage you. Remember, the statement was made in church. And people are saying these are the churches where statements have been made and they have not been followed up. But today, you have made this statement again. Okay. So how do you expect this Gen Z to believe that you'll engage them? Just a second, I finish this. To engage them in this promise that was made yesterday, when you have not said, I'm stopping this process in the meantime, so that I engage you first.
But given, Wakili, what you have said, and also what we witnessed, the horror on institutions of government, still Katiba, whilst it accords the people all sovereign power under Article 1, also gives the people the leeway to go up to the line, not over the line, because of some sacred institutions like Parliament and like what we witnessed yesterday, the Office of the Chief Justice, which was set ablaze. I mean, then if this is the chaotic environment within which all these events are happening, how do we resolve our problems?
You know, Ayub, I'm so shocked when you talk like that, but I know you are like me. We were not there in 1960, 60, 61, 62, 63. That was what the Wazungus were telling people. You cannot cross this line. And if that was to be followed, we will never have had our independence. These are things that are put there to actually defeat, you getting your sovereignty. Before Section 2A was removed, that was the red line. You couldn't cross. Do you know people died for that?
Wakili, should violence be part of the discussions we ought to be having in addressing our governance issues? That's the point I'm making.
And you have a very good point. And I wish the IG was here. I wish Bungei was here, because that's the person who should answer this. and the people at the Ministry of Interior. Remember, these people demonstrated last week. Did you see them carrying anything? Did you see them destroying anything?
No, that's what recorded as was yesterday.
They did no. Remember, it started then. They were okay. And I've given you a synopsis of why it arrived at that point.
Okay, point.
They actually planned for violence. The government planned for violence, and it has actually ended up. This is what they want. This is my father. If you look at a tweet yesterday, it tells you. And that's why I'm saying even the president should know, and all these people, their children are maybe supporting this.
That happened in other days. Because the people on the foreground, especially those who breached parliament, were not the protesters who've been the other days. Because me, I was there watching and observing. So this was something I wasn't watching TV, watching, and I was there. Let me tell you something. Those in the forefront, and the president is right, this thing was hijacked by a few elements which you've reported. Yeah. Those who were there moving and observing. You know how many times my car was stopped and almost stoned, thinking I'm an MP when they're looking and hunting for MPs. The goons and the thugs who are there were different than demonstrators. And the president actually differentiated between the demonstrators and the criminal. And there was, and we have to agree on that. There was violence yesterday. And who did it or who planned it, the fact was it was there. Okay, so this is what I'll say, and that's what there has to be. We cannot lump everybody, because 95%, actually 99% of people are very peaceful, have been peaceful. The criminal elements that hijacked and took these, and now the narrative has changed. And I want to tell Gen Z not to allow people to hijack their movement. Yeah, because if you do that now, tables change very quickly. Yeah. Lastly, let's agree to this, that yes, there's certain laws which we still have to abide by the rule of law. Protest has to be peaceful, which has been, and there was provocation here and there. Yes, we agree on that one. But when the law is broken, when you breach a protected security area, according to the laws of Kenya, it is what it is. Now, the response could have been wrong, because in Mombasa, when the protesters marched towards the State House, the JSU shot in the air. They didn't shoot people, they shot in the air and they dispersed the crowd. Okay? And of course, they were just moving. So I would say this, that for those who are on the ground, things were radically different than the other days. And now that's a narrative, and so we need to have genuinely, so that now the genuine issues, see, we're moving from the issues. People had issues with policy and governance, so we don't move away from the issues these Gen Zs and millennials have been agitating for. Because if we do that now, we lose track, because now these people have hijacked the narrative. Now it's something totally different, and now was the cause. So this cause can be hijacked, which is being hijacked now, and it's not a good thing.
But Danvas, I'll come to you, Dr. Danvas, when you say the hijacking aspect, also the president mentioned that in his speech yesterday, and he talked of what was a rather peaceful march, was also the presence of organized criminals who had infiltrated the group and threatened Kenya's democracy that should be tackled. Accordingly, I assure the Kenyan people that we shall provide a full, effective and expeditious response.
Organic movement of young people across the country, from Marsabit to Turkana to Kajiado to Mombasa. So it is hard for some foreign hands to sponsor young kids across the country. That's not true. What I was saying is, if you were there, so we have to differentiate issues so that we don't mix issues. If you are there, and I feel sad and I feel bad for these kids who they have genuine peaceful protests, and change, achievable change has been hijacked by just a few elements. Because if you were there yesterday, you could see, because I mean, if we've been to previous demonstrations, I've been to many of them, observing and making sure everything is fine. And the same goons, the same thugs who usually are there, the ones who were there yesterday. I saw them with my own eyes. This is not something I've been told, okay? I saw it. So that's why I'm saying we need to differentiate those people. But to accuse now genuine young people to saying there's a foreign, and that actually that's not true.
Yes.
So let's be very factual,
yes.
so that we don't actually. How would you think as a Gen Z, when you paid for your own Uber, your matatu, paid for your own lunch and breakfast, to be told, hey, somebody's sponsoring you? You see that's also not fair.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yes,
facts have to be laid as they are.
Yes,
the progress of event can easily twist the country's mindset to concentrate on the goons. But the issue here is that finance bill was meant to provide hope to Kenyans. And then a team of Kenyans read until she comes back. So there is anxiety, there is frustration in a number of Kenyans, in a number of the 52 million people. So when you see those children there, remember they are not just them. They are frustration behind the Kenyans' mindset. So if a number of them at one time you get them on the streets, you need to know, you don't miss the point. You need to always to understand it's because of the hopelessness that is there. And that also tells you those Gen Z, they are not alone. They are there. The parents are not there, but their mind is there. Like now the issue is, what's the way forward, Abdi? The way forward, they expect. Right now, what's in the Kenyan mind, what's in the 52 million people, is the president will not sign. That's what we are thinking. He's not going to sign so that we can sit on the table and agree on the next course of action. But when these structures move from one thing to the other, there's that anxiety. So, did we have other goons on the road? Yes, it's possible. Because those Gen Zs, they have their brothers in the house. And when their brothers see those young people dying on the street, what happens? That's why we need to have been proactive, not reactive. What we are doing now, we are reacting. What's the outcome of Gen Z? Now we need to ask ourselves, with this anchor in the country right now, what's the reaction after he signs? So we can't let this situation go where they are. We need to provide hope to our people. Tell people, no, it has gone like this, but you know what? Our father, the president, will not sign. When he's not going to sign, we'll have a team to sit together and tell the way forward. But we can't say, now that we are here, the next course of action is going to sign, and then the goons, you are going to do what you want. We can't do that in this ship.
Okay. Given that there is a 14-day window period allowed by the Constitution for the bill to become law, either the president signs or automatically it becomes law. So what happens? Is that time frame enough for what the president termed as providing a way forward in terms of the framework within which these issues should happen? He said these are policy-related issues. They have no tribal connotations. He appreciated the young people's movement. But is time, then will that framework allow for these talks to happen?
I don't think time is the issue here. The issue, these boys and girls said they are fearless, they are partless, they are tribalists, they are manless. So if you tell them to sit down, they sit. You tell them to jump, they'll ask how high. So it will not even cost an hour. If we all sit right now and the president make a statement and say, what has happened is unfortunate. I call all of us to calm down. And anybody that's offended the other, we apologize to one another. Let's sit down and decide the next course of action. Before we sign, let's sit down and decide all of us as 52 million. Then we start moving. Our anxiety will be low. We'll know that we are not going to fight. We are going to agree as a nation.
Okay.
But time will not be an issue. Even if today, the unfortunate thing is yesterday, when there was name calling yesterday, goons, these people, what you are saying, the president might have been right. But the question is not who is doing now. The question is, what's the core issue? What's the matter?
Okay. Yeah, Namoya, is it time for the leadership of the country to relook at how they normally engage the Kenyan people through the social contract that they have?
Definitely. Protests are a form of expression. People express themselves in different ways. And by the time people come to the point where they decide now they are going to protest, there are a lot of other things they have tried. Remember that before the protests, people had tried to go to court. Last year, Omtata and the rest went to court. The court issued orders, and the president decided that those were saboteurs. I think he called them saboteurs, and he even threatened the courts. And at some point, people are beginning to lose trust in the courts because of some of the decisions that are beginning to come out of the courts. People are feeling like there's something that's not right. And then people also had petitions. There are petitions that have been sent to offices, senior government offices, where people are saying, this is not right, please change this. They don't feel so that they vote for this bill. So people realized
which we have no evidence to corroborate.
No, but this is being said by MPs. MPs themselves are saying they're being given 2 million to vote for the bill. So the issue of bribery in parliament is not coming up for the first time. We cannot overlook it. So people feel all avenues for expression and representation have been closed. So they go to the streets to protest. When you block them, the way I saw the president saying that this is going to be a turning point, which may suggest that he wants now to crack down hard and block even the opportunities for protest, that becomes very dangerous. That's how societies explode. And the one more clarification I need to make, it's okay, people have said this is a Generation Z protest, but I think we miss the point when we hammer that so that it looks Generation Z versus the rest. What these people are saying on the streets is what every other Kenyan is feeling.
Disagreeing with me. And you see, Danvers is telling us that, he's of that analogy of that red line. And I do agree, there are restricted areas which are even gazetted. But to the extent that anyone stepping on that particular line, you kill, and that is a Kenyan, that is wrong. There is an aspect of restraint. Remember, when Uhuru Kenyatta was in power, there was a person, a university student who went to State House, was actually climbing. He was not shot. They actually, and that was so good because they found he had mental issues. So if your issue is just shooting, then it means you'll be shooting everyone, even when I'm there by mistake. The issue is restraint. But remember,
where then do you place the cards here, Wakili Dan? Because if we are to look at the conduct of even the previous regime from the perspective of constitutionalism, the rule of law, and good governance, there were cases where the rights of Kenyans were violated. For example, the case of Miguna, whose home was vandalized, a Kenyan who...
Where you can limit it is within the confines of the Constitution, what is indicated in the Constitution. So first of all, you must respect that life. So to the extent that even if someone is demonstrating, this person is not armed, is not even a police officer cannot just find you committing crime and he shoots you. That is not how it's supposed to be. Unless there's a threat to his life, unless you're armed, unless you want to use a firearm, unless you want to kill someone else, that's when you're allowed to use that firearm. So to the extent of these protesters were outside parliament. I want Dan Vazu tells me that he was there to tell me that a protester was not shot point blank outside parliament. His brain spilled off, a very young person. If he didn't see that, then I wonder if he was outside there. If you get in, and this is not the first time parliaments have been breached. In the United States, there are 1950 something, disabled people breached the Congress, and it's called the American Crawl. They were not shot. In 2020, when people were trying to say that Trump won and should have actually been sworn in, they actually breached the Capitol. And I'm telling you, the only people who are shot, and very few, were the ones who are inside, not outside. Here we have people being shot outside, not inside. That is where we are saying, when as a person is put at KICC and in parliament buildings, a sniper to shoot people outside, you are actually going against the law, and that now defeats the doctrine of restraint. These are unarmed. If they had come with guns, I can tell you, I will be the first one to say, shoot them. You don't know what they would have done. And that's why I'm saying, look at the genesis of this thing. Shooting these people, and the president is actually declaring another worse aspect in terms of the right to life by saying these acts are treasonous. That means all these people, according to him, have committed treason. And according to him, the Ochuka way is where he wants us to go. As lawyers, we will not allow that. We have a country. We will defend that. And the aspect of taking away life is not in our law today. You can only jail those people for life. But more importantly, everyone is alive to this. And let me tell you, these people, and I like what Namwai has said, in terms of numbers, there are so many. Yeah. You will do what you want to do today. Remember in which country where they even jailed a person who was going to contest, this Sonko person. Senegal. And even with all that, the people made their decision, and the Sonkos and his colleague took power. That president is now in Europe as we speak. So these people, their will is so important. Their decision is so important. And time, this is the same president told us many times when he was the deputy president, power is transient. I don't know what has happened to that transient today, but power is transient. These young people will elect someone, and that someone will release all these people you want to jail. That same person will find you to have committed treason. So it is important for there to be restraint from the leadership. The Bible says, as a leader, you are a father. You cannot just react. Even the prodigal son, the father took him back after all that. Do not be reactionary, especially with children.
Okay, Wakili, point taken. And quick notifications. In Senegal, things happened the democratic way, which was beautiful, that a young leader was installed as the president. And in drawing comparisons between what happened on January 6th at Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., that was largely a discontent Donald Trump, who denied the outcome of the elections. His own vice president then had said that things happened as the electoral process was envisaged. And it's not fair to also compare the two scenarios, because those were incited and by Trump, who largely was not held in high esteem, given that he lied 20,000 times between 2017 and 2021. And he wasn't in a position to either differentiate between whether Finland was in Europe or was in Russia. So the matter of seriousness. But here you have Kenyans who are decrying about a finance bill, matters that affect their lives, and there's no leader behind them, as Dr. mentioned here, of the formless, the tribalist aspect. But given that for a very long time, conversations around how to take our country forward had happened within the confines of the political establishment. For example, we had the National Dialogue Conference, which concluded its sittings at the Bomas of Kenya, young persons who are rarely taken into account. So what form of dialogue then will we have going forward here? Because the situation we have is that these young persons have thrown the wild card on the table, and the political cycle in the country seems to be now changing, given their constant ignoring and the sidelining. And now they seem to be now a serious and formidable force that the administration of the day and future ones have to fathom with.
I do agree with you 100% that American situation, the Trump situation, was so bad. So bad that you want to even change the will of the people. But through that equivalent, it's treasonous. It's actually changing government. So according to him, it is a Trump situation. Those are the words that were used yesterday. And that is why it's still important and relevant. Lastly, in terms of the conversation going forward, I've indicated that it would have been better for the president to say that I'm stopping this process for now, so that we can engage, whether it's 14 days, whether it's 7 days, it doesn't matter. Let me tell you, these people are not interested in even the president coming out of power or out of status. They only have one issue, the finance bill, and listen to us. Only that. And that conversation can proceed. But will it proceed when we have been promised that, wait, the mutaona moto. Within the next few days, mutaona moto.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want to sit down with them, and you want to take them to courts and to go the Ochuka way.
Yes,
no.
Yes, Danvas.
Just to be on the record, Okili, I don't agree with how Little Falls was used yesterday. I mean, of course, so don't say that I'm defending that.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, please don't blame me because I saw it, and when the first shots were fired, it was outside. Actually, fortunate that what happened yesterday, the tragic loss of life is highly regrettable, and how it was done, of course, is questionable. I truly hope IPOA will take and follow due process, and due lawyers will help these families. But let's not lose focus on the main issues of what people are agitating. Let me just put a conflict analyst hat here by saying yesterday was the finance bill was a fuse. Okay, it was a fuse in a bomb that went off. The real issues was still there. As I said, the real issues, the policy issue and governance issue. Yesterday's speech, the president actually mentioned it. We have issues with governance, and Kenyans have a genuine concern on how they feel they're being governed, and that we cannot take it away from all Kenyans. Gen Zs and millennials are only speaking on behalf, as he said, on behalf of everyone. It's only that maybe the parents don't have the courage to go to the streets in the previous days that the young people have been doing, but it's speaking for everyone. So what I just want us to highlight is let's not take away the discussion narrative. The real focus is the issues that Kenyans have felt enough is enough, and you need to pay attention to us. You need to listen to us, and that's not been happening. And it is important because they have given notice. I feel that this thing is not done yet. It's just begun. In terms of how governance and politics will be done in our country for the rest and issue of our country, this is a seismic shift, okay? And it's not politics as usual. I don't think even elected members understand what is happening on the ground. If you are there, it's a seismic shift. And everybody has been put to notice, regardless of who you are, whether elected or not, as long as you're a leader in this country, we have been put to notice on how governance is done. So let's listen to this young generation and everybody else. And my plea is listening to do. Okay, we will discuss, and I was hoping that we discuss actually a way forward. Now, what do we do as a country? What do we do? Because yes, how do you engage millions of young people? Because there was millions who came across yesterday. They don't have a leader, as Dr. has said, and we know they don't have these. The leaders have been trying to own the movement, have been put on the side and say, no, this is us. They don't want a face. It is them. It is very personal for them. So we need actually to figure out how now do we have a conversation with millions of children and young people and even old people. It's basically 54 million Kenyans who are saying, this is the way the things are going are not correct. Listen to us, change course. So how do we, that's a discussion we need to have.
Yes, Dr. Alphonse, do you think, given the critical role of Parliament placed at the fulcrum point between the executive and the judiciary because of money aspects in terms of allocation, representation of the people, oversight, checking excesses of government, do you think Parliament will change its course and listen to the Kenyan people, given the tone and the kind of language that they have been deploying for some time now?
Abdi, I wanted to say on the other side is that MPs are part of this nation. I started by saying that Kenya is 52 million. And Kenya is not a plantation of anybody. The first thing that we must agree is that the ruling class need to listen to the electorate. And the electorate are more than the ruling class. And so we must come up with a structure, what we call a win-win situation. So are they going to listen? If they are told to listen as individuals, that's a different thing. But it's a high time right now where we are in this ship. Now that we are still drilling a hole, we are sinking, whether they want it or not. There are things you don't need to want, is that you have to swallow your pride. So our MPs need to swallow their pride. And first of all, let's respect them. They are also Kenyans. Let's not hurt them because we elected them. So it's wrong to say that they stand there, we should vandalize their property. No. We need to bring them on board because they are part of the 52 million. But are they going to come up with a solution? We don't expect them to come up with a solution with what's happening around here. Where we are now, it's beyond that. That's why I talked about what we call a multi-stakeholder forum for now. In 14 days, we need a multi-stakeholder forum. This forum will compose all of us interested with our nation, religious people, public intellectuals, manufacturers, the lawyers, and all of us. We need that forum to come and discuss the national agenda. Genesis has put us there. The goons yesterday did their work, but all of us are in this ship. Can we come on the table and have a national agenda to discuss and ask ourselves, what is the next course of action? Number one, we cannot for you, it would be too wrong to say we are going to sign and we are going to continue as normal. That's not in such a country like this one, where we all live as a family. You sign and then you continue and then you look others inside. First of all, you cannot militarize a mindset. These people that are saying they are fearless, it's a mindset. What you saw is a mindset. Again, as we have all said, we have all agreed here that it's not about them. It's about 70% of Kenyans are with those agencies.
Okay. But then do you expect anything meaningful out of the conduct of parliamentarians, given what they have said and how they have acted? I mean, for the past few months and years, when you see members of parliament saying, Mimi hata sijasoma hiyo bill, but he's going to vote yes. When you see cabinet ministers telling the Kenyan people, go and dig your own oil wells, telling off the Kenyan people because of the hike in fuel prices last year, what we witnessed. When you have advisors to the president who are telling the Kenyan young generation that you have talked about, passionately so, about to go and focus on other issues, that governance is not part of what they should be focusing on. But this is a generation, can they understand this, that had the capacity to even translate the finance bill into all the dialects in this country, be it Taita, be it in Gikuyu, be it in Dhuluo, be it in Luya, in Somali, in Kalenjin. I mean, why can't they just understand the public mood, which is one of angst and anguish? And majorly this is about not entirely changing the structure of government. They just want good governance. Their money to be put into good use. They get education, they get healthcare, they get good roads, and they are sorted.
In our leadership in the country, we have very smart individuals, good leaders among them. But also among them, there are people that have special interests. And they are there as idol worshippers. They are there as sycophants. This is the biggest problem. But where we are right now, we don't expect them to come up and restructure this thing. We don't expect something good to come up from parliament right now and say this is the way forward. Where we are right now is about the 52 million people. It's about us, the leadership, all of us. First of all, I said the ruling class need to listen, shape up, style up. And ruling classes, all of us involved. We just need to style up and quickly swallow our pride and tell these young people, please come on the table, let's discuss. Again, dialogue should be there.
Thank you. Yes, no more.
Dialogue is there.
Yeah, let me just clarify 2 points. One, when we talk about parliament not listening to people, parliament is just a symptom of the emasculation of the institutions of governance that has happened over the last 2 years. So you look at parliament and what has happened, the election, the way it happened, and the allegations of bribery within parliament. That's one institution. But look at the police. What happened just after the election, the change of leadership, the inspector general, and then suddenly we start seeing police going to receive the orders and directions from the executive. That was not the police force that people envisaged when the constitution, this new constitution, came into place. Look at institutions that are supposed to to investigate police when they misbehave, the way we saw yesterday. IPOA, when we have had killings like this during demonstrations, which is basically sanctioned by the state, we have seen IPOA act toothless. Last year we had killings. IPOA, in its estimation, they said about 70 had been killed. They promised us that they would investigate. We haven't seen those prosecutions go ahead. We are seeing killings happening now. In 2017, we had over 100 people killed. We did present cases to IPOA. which showed a lot of evidence showing who killed and which police officers and why it was unfair.
And did the evidence meet the threshold required for that matter to be finalized conclusively by a court of law?
But before even that, you have to have investigations going on. What investigations did IPOA do? So what we are saying is there has been a systematic emasculation of institutions of government. Even the independent commissions, like my colleague here comes from the National Commission, the NCIC. What do they do nowadays? Because they were supposed to be the ones investigating hate speech. Some of the statements you have seen from political leaders amount to hate speech, but NCIC is quiet. So this is part of the governance problem. The second issue I wanted to clarify is the issue, the way we have again characterized this as a finance bill issue. Finance bill is just the trigger. But there have been underlying issues that have been boiling over time. People have been asking, why are we borrowing so much? Why do we have high debts? People have been asking, why are we being overtaxed? There was another finance bill in 2023. And people are asking, this is unfair taxation because we don't see why we are being taxed. Where does the money go? What is the development that we receive from the money that we are paying? And then the corruption. There is, people see the opulence and the money that people are throwing around, the corruption in parliament, everything. And people are wondering, is this why we are being taxed? So that a few people can line their pockets.
Corruption
and then,
is across though.
Yeah, but
money is stolen across even
but the state has the responsibility to ensure accountability where there is corruption.
But they are institutions, aren't they?
That's why I'm saying the emasculation of institutions. Yeah. And then there is arrogance. The arrogance that we see, like some of the statements we saw people making, that I don't know, the MP from Thika, I don't know who, how they are even, it's very annoying. And then the lies. People think they can lie themselves into people's hearts. And this is a build-up of anger. People feel they're not represented, people feel they're not listened to, and people feel their resources are not being utilized properly. And these are governance issues. And so when people stand up to express themselves, I think people need to be listened to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wakil Okatches, your account as we also take a look at the feedback, because there was an earlier issue that you have made about the death penalty, which for treason should be the death penalty. But how can that happen within the constitutional dispensation that we are in, and the abolishing of the death penalty as well? So in what context can that happen?
Yes, for capital offenses in Kenya, the penalty is death. It is still there in our constitution. Even though there are findings by the highest courts of the land that, death penalty is not okay, is not good, but we have to amend it. Nonetheless, they have truncated. Even when you are found guilty of a capital offense, you have the right to mitigate, and the court then has the latitude to either give you a life imprisonment in terms of even if the sentence is death. It normally amounts to life imprisonment, because the last person who was actually executed pursuant to the death sentence is Ochuk, according to the records. But nonetheless, gradually courts are even moving and have latitude to even give you time in terms of even lesser time, depending with what is there. So that's not a very big worry. But the big worry here, Ayub, is the fact that Matiba, when he was released from prison, people asked him, you are the president now, go and deal with these people ruthlessly. Matiba told them, if I am to deal with them, it will mean that someone has removed one eye, I remove their eye. They remove mine, another one, I remove theirs. We will all be blind. And he told these people, I will not revenge. When Kibaki took over power, many people told him, go after Daniel Moi and his cronies and the big words, take everything that is theirs. And he said, no, that is not the way to go. There is a song that really inspires me and inspires, I know, the young generation, sung by Kenny Rogers, which is called Something Inside So Strong. And it starts, just listen to the first part. It says, the higher you build your barriers, That is to the rich, to the powerful. You will build barriers, you will put electric fences. You'll rebuild parliament, put electric fences there. But they say, the taller I become. People will, we counter. We have a mechanism in life that will counter. The more you take my rights away, that's the second part. And they say, the faster I will run. You take it away, and I will learn how to run. The more you try to muzzle the voice, the louder it will become. So to that extent, it does not help. I think this is a watershed moment, and I still repeat, we should go back to the drawing board. And the government should realize that the best way to go forward today is issue another presser. The first thing in that presser is an order to release all those who have been abducted. We don't know where people are. That is the first thing they should do to show that we also agree we did wrong. The second thing, promise that there'll be no more abductions. Third, pause the process of the finance bill for now. Fourth, promise that there are no more arrests. Fifth, take back the military to the barracks. If military people, have all what it has, they should be in Haiti. We have sent our police officers there. Then we are saying we are not able to even deal with internal, our children here, and we need the military. Yet our police are so powerful, so great that we are sending them to Haiti. It doesn't make sense. Then the last thing, it is a wake-up call to the church, clergy who have been quiet. Who own this government? And that I say it with capital letters.
Owning what has
they own this government. Let me tell you, they own this government.
The government belongs to the,
and that's
the government
why,
is the Kenyan people.
No. Let me tell you, it is the church owns this government, and it's very important for people to underline.
How so? How does
because the church, let me tell you, the church played an instrumental role in this government being in power. And remember, the church is in terms of the social fabric of a nation. The church is the voice that is outside that should speak to power and speak sense to power. We are here because the church is deep within power. They're appointed into power. They're appointed into positions. They own this government.
But there are no, what are the positions? You mean you're talking about cabinet level?
Not even cabinet level. Let me tell you.
Appointments?
Let me tell you, the people who advise the government are not the people you see there in cabinet level who tell us there are so many ways to die. They don't have an idea of what happens there.
Who then, other than the advisors we know from your perspective, are from the church and advise the president?
I'm telling you, look at where the president goes every Sunday, and used to go after.
He goes to
and
worship.
he will tell you not only worshiping. He speaks to those people. You had a chance with the president maybe in the US. I don't know if you had a one-on-one opportunity. How many times do you have that opportunity? The clergy has that opportunity each and every Sunday, and they had it from the time the president was a deputy. And at this point, it takes a person of reason to reason with the president and tell him, no, I think we are going in the wrong direction. The church is not doing that. They have failed. We have the aspect of the judiciary. The judiciary, it should be a wake-up call for the judiciary to know that if Kenya goes this way, especially on Thursday, tomorrow, even the judiciary will not just blame the executive, even the judiciary will be failing. People are being abducted. We are not even hearing the voice of Martha Koome until when people now had a hashtag on that. We have IPOA, which there should be a wake-up call to IPOA, because if they are doing what they are doing, even the police officers will not maim and shoot Kenyans with impunity, because each and every organization is put there with a purpose. We also have a wake-up call to Wananchi, because these leaders that we have in parliament, of course there's a wake-up call to parliament, but I don't know, they are so deep into this with their 2 million shillings that they've already been paid as alleged by one of them to even disembark from that plane. But for the Wananchi, it's a wake-up call that you get the leaders you deserve. If you elect leaders who do not have a spine, leaders who are just there because of political parties, you will end up with this, because those leaders go there, leave their brains outside, and they are given 2 million, and they...
So in other words, we are a reflection of ourselves.
We are a reflection of ourselves, and we should blame ourselves. And come 2027, we cannot elect bad leaders, people who we call them MPs afterwards, but then we come back and now protest.
Okay, we'll proceed, Dr. Kanga. I know you want to come in, but first let's sample the feedback and proceed as I take your account. Danvers, Dr. Kanga, and Namoya here. This is what you're saying on X. The hashtag is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya. Dr. Kanga, will come back to you. Remy Butia says Kenya can ill afford to stumble into unrest. The country is starkly divided at a time when it needs unity to cope with the difficulties it faces. I pray for Kenya.
That's true.
Bob Otieno Winner says Gen Z has valid grievances, but where the rubber meets the line is when goons and politicians takes an advantage of their protests to create violence. It's high time they come together and form their own organization or a formidable political party. Ngeso_Jesse says, dear Parliament, prioritizing interest with the essence of the majority over the minority due to disparity of power and money is no justice at all. The bill is passed, but we have lost the cohesion between the people and those conducting state functions. Baba Michael K says, I don't know the worst that can happen to Kenya if this particular finance bill 2024 is withdrawn. They say it's for the greater good of the people, but when the people say no and they are your boss, what do? Do you go ahead to deploy the Kenya Defense Forces? Agumba Steve says, it's so unfortunate how the legislators could vote yes for their selfish reasons despite the masses coming out to protest against the bill. Are our MPs sane? SRO says the president, meant to be a symbol of national unity, isn't acting like one. The protest is organic, and calling participants criminals in caveats will only fuel their anger. He should embrace dialogue as promised to heal the country. Gabi Wakasiaka says, indeed, Section 37 of the Constitution was violated by demonstrators yesterday. The police commands and orders were also violated. I jointly condemn the destructions, theft, and vandalism by goons yesterday. It's totally unlawful. Evans Onyela One says, yesterday's events at Parliament clearly indicate that sovereign power belongs to the people. I urge the government to listen to the voices of the majority and embrace dialogue for the better future of our country. Ngeso again says, our Father of all creation, bless Kenya, may we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty, anti-corruption system of governance. They say iron sharpens iron. Buying politicians' vote defeats the need of the constitution, same as youths breaking into parliament. Gabi again says, I urge the president to listen to the voices of the Gen Zs, consider their perspectives, and engage in meaningful discussions to find common ground that benefits all citizens, and decisive action is needed to restore peace and confidence. Again, he says, in these challenging times, I appeal to the president. Youths are the backbone of our nation, and their concerns must be addressed with empathy and understanding. Equally, the safety of every citizen is a paramount, and decisive action is needed. Dr. Alphonse, just a reflection of the mood in the country?
Yes, that's the reflection. And actually the reflection is simple, is that we need to sit down and agree the way forward. But let's not assume that all is well. There is a problem somewhere. But I just want to tell my friend that he should not blame the church, because when they come to church, we baptize them and give them names, and they tell us they expose the truth. Now, the question from there is, are they transformed by that truth? Exposure to truth does not mean transformation by the truth. We give them names and we support. We don't apologize for having baptized you and given you a Christian name, but we apologize for your actions. And so your actions, they are liable to God, not to us. Do we apologize for appointing somebody? No. Again, you say the church did. The church did. Do you think the church says they did? The church have a right to support everybody that comes to us and tells us, even you, if you came, we'll tell you you're okay. Is there anybody better than our president? No, we are all the same. We are all sinners. What we need is organize ourselves, structure ourselves, and be better people for tomorrow. But where are we? Let's not miss the point. The point is way forward from here. Please, let us not miss, as the general worldview of the community is, let's not miss the point. The point on the table is, let us engage Kenyans with honest discussions. Do not scaremonger and come up with issues like, we'll shut down, we'll do this. No, let's not do that. Let's come up with the issue of abduction. Let's deal with the issues of house levy. Let's deal with the issues of CAS. Are they necessary? And save our money. Let's deal with the taking of taxes. Is it necessary? Let's deal with the zero budget for some offices. Let's reduce state renovations. Let's deal with the issues of land uncomfortable with us. Let's deal with that. unless we deal with that, we are only saying, as you have said, when you become so frustrated, when you think you are dealing with me and I'm frustrated, you will tell me to sit down. And I'm seated, but I'm standing. So are you telling young people to sit down with the military? No. The young people will tell you, yes, I'm seated, but I'm standing in my mind. Let's not do that kind of a thing to our fellow Gen Zs. Gen Zs, I'm sure they are not going to sit down because the military is on the streets. They'll sit down with logical, honest discussion, prayerfully, and we the faith people come in and help them to cool down.
And where do we place then the voice of the people here? Namoya, coming to you. Given that we have given ourselves a constitutional architecture, which is so beautiful to an extent that we know when our elections will happen. We know when a new president is sworn in, between what time and what time, because largely informed by our dark past in terms of the conduct of elections and also the behavior of the country's political class. All these safeguards have been put in place by the writers of our constitution. Then when we have this architecture, which is predictable, why not then change this entire debate from the foundation and the base? First, register as voters. Second, take part in the elections. Third, put in place a government that works for the people. It's simple as that. The 70% that we are talking about can form a majority block of more than 18 million registered voters, going by the numbers that we have per the Kenya National, that is the demographic survey, and also the voter register, which will change by the time we head to the elections in August 2027.
So, starting from where you started, when do we say we have a voice of the people? And when when you have a protest like the one we've had yesterday and last week, where the whole country, across parties, across tribes, across generations, is saying no to something, that's a voice of the people. Mm-hmm. You either choose to listen to it, or you choose to hide your head like the proverbial ostrich under the sand and call it organized criminals, but then you'll be calling the entire country organized criminals. That is basically the voice of the people. When people make presentations to parliament, people go to court, and the court says, actually, what you have done goes against the constitution. The constitution is the contract between the people and the leaders. So if you violate that contract, and the courts are saying, you have violated the contract, so go back and look at it, and you choose to threaten the people who went to court and the courts themselves, you're basically disregarding the voice of the people who put you in power. So do we go back to the basics and vote a government that will listen to us and serve us? You see, we have had this long conversation since 2017, 2013, 2007, about something that people have described as electoral justice. So before that issue of electoral justice has not been resolved. It goes to the fundamentals of how our electoral system works. The IEBC, the tallying process and all that, people don't feel that there's a section of the population in this country that feels that they don't actually get the leaders that they actually voted for. So we need to address that issue, and we need to have a very candid conversation. And then secondly, there were provisions in the law that empowered people to recall their leaders when they don't feel that their leaders are representing them adequately. There was a recall for MPs. Mm. That law went to parliament, and parliamentarians decided to emasculate it and make it extremely difficult to recall an MP. I think people went to court. I saw last week the court was trying to simplify it. But it is still difficult. And when people feel they are cornered and they're not being listened to, and they don't feel a connection between the leadership and the people, a lot of things happen. That's why I say that's how societies explode. When institutions, like I've talked about institutions collapse, or leaders take deliberate steps to destroy institutions that we have spent so much time. In the 90s, after the 90s, that's 20 years, people have been working to establish these institutions. So when you come to power, and the first thing you do is to destroy police, start emasculating the judiciary, destroy parliament, destroy independent commissions, destroy everything so that the state becomes you and you become the state. That's a problem.
What then happens then of, for example, when you mention institutions, Katiba also outlines independent commissions that have security of, whose occupants have security of tenure in office cannot be sacked. What then happens to the conscience? What then happens, for example, to the institution of parliament, where MPs have even the power to impeach a sitting president?
But that power was supposed to be exercised in pursuance of the voice of the people. So as a representative of the people, when the government is not fulfilling its mandate, you can impeach him. But when you have a parliament that is compromised the way we are seeing, when you start hearing rumors of money going to parliament through being carried to parliament with sacks, and MPs admitting that they were given 2 million, that's not a parliament. You know, there was a sixth parliament under Moi. I think it was after the 1988 elections, which was initially declared the worst parliament Kenya has ever had. But the way this parliament is going, if they're not careful, it could be worse than the sixth parliament.
What then needs to happen at the ballot, given the conduct of the House? We have talked about the bicameral setup that we have. Again, all this comes back to the Kenyan people who, under Article 1, have the sovereign power to change the government through election, of course, through the ballot in a democratic process. Why then not take an account of what's happening at the moment and do that meaningful change which is required at the ballot? Because that is the opportunity that comes.
I've talked about the electoral justice. Basically, it talks about the integrity of our electoral process. Do the leaders we have are true reflection of the will of the people? When people go to vote, what the outcome of that vote, is it really what people have expressed wanted? So we need to address the issue of the integrity of the electoral process.
Okay. Yes, Damas.
On your question, because I think this is important, and let's just be real also, and so we can be reflective and help one as a country. This is all our country, so let's be reflective. And there's a genesis of this problem, which you've said in terms of the election process. If you remember, last election, actually, most of us were really involved in it. One of the things we are trying to do is an initiative for new registers of voters, especially young people, our generation, say, go register, go register. My colleagues at IBC had a difficult problem registering young people. I was in this studio and many times, and the question was about the indifference of voters. The biggest demographic of people during the election, people who do not vote. True or false? It's very true. Very true, right? Yeah. 8.6 registered voters did not vote. Millions more who were supposed to register did not register and vote. And that's very important. So we as a generation, Gen Z and millennials, also have a responsibility to where we've gotten today. Because if they voted, maybe the different outcome. Now, we cannot prove a negative in the philosophy we say, but that's just also acknowledging where we are as a country. The millions did not vote, millions did not register. Now, to your point, coming in the next election, if you hear what they have said, because we monitor social media, I mean, people have sworn they will register and vote. To your point, Wakili, the question is then, will the people who be elected reflective of us as a people in terms of our value systems? Yeah, but that's also important, because I can tell you, I'm not a political analyst and I don't make it a political issue. With the agitation and the anger and discontent across the country, especially with the young people, whether you voted yes or no in this bill, I don't think you're really coming back, because that's what you're saying. It's not an issue of yes or no now. It's an issue of you're the political class, you represent everything that we don't want. Okay, and that is why even you see those who have been opposed to the bill, who are trying to hijack the movement, being rejected, saying, get out of our way. Yeah, and this is important. So that's why I say this is a seismic shift we have in politics. And really we can be reflective. And who is wise? A wise leader. Now, listen to these wise leaders in the country. Who is wise will be those who listen out to the people and see the mood shift and change and tone and say, the ground, as we say in the country, our ground is really different. It is truly different. I don't think people appreciate. I don't think we as leaders appreciate how the ground has genuinely shifted and changed. This is not status quo anymore. And who is wise is to read the ground and say, you know what, the bosses, which is the people, are saying this, and we need to listen and go with them. Now, whether wrong or right, you say, no, you have a boss. If your boss says, do this, whether you agree or not, you ought to do. Now, your boss can be wrong, but he's your boss. Then do what he's told you to do. Then you say, hey, you told me to do this, and these are the consequences. Then, it didn't work. Let's do it differently. So I think that is what,
to be clear, the boss in this case are the Kenyan people.
Yes, absolutely.
But in many aspects, parliamentarians have been trooping to State House, whoever the occupant, whether the previous president or the current one, and they seem to be reading from the same hymn sheet as him.
Yeah. But we need to listen to the boss. The boss, your boss is your party leader. According to this constitution, the sovereign will of the people, it's the Kenyans who are the bosses. And if 95% of Kenyans who are saying, do this, wisdom dictates. The tenets of democracy dictate. We are democracy, right, Wakili, yes, right?
Yes.
Now, if you're democracy, our tenets dictate that you listen to the will of the people. You understand? It's simple wisdom here. This is actually not very complicated. Now, whether you can agree with your bosses or not, fine. But if your bosses says do this, then you can think your bosses are wrong. Acknowledge your dissent. Even sometimes in boards, we acknowledge dissent. We can agree and say, no, I do not agree, but at least dissent is recorded. But then follow that instruction. It's good to listen to the masses, because generally.
And for a very long time, parliamentarians have been either deaf or dead against what the public says, and given its conduct as well. If you look at how Parliament had debated the sugar report in 2018, it was so wanting, the alarming uncertainty about their conduct also regarding money that exchanged hands in the toilets of Parliament, going to funerals and talking down on people. And this is an educated generation that is taking account of every event that's happening in our country.
And that's how I said earlier, because that the finance bill is a trigger. This is a culmination, aggregation of so many things that have been happening.
Yeah.
And people said, now enough is enough. We need to change course. Yeah. And that's what people are saying, basically.
Wakili, what would it mean in terms of injecting the medicine needed in our democracy's bloodstream, or even the prescription, in having an independent parliament, in the sense that voters put in place leaders who champion for the interests of the public?
Ayub, I think that's a very important question, because it can even be the panacea to the issues that we have. Because the moment we have structured our politics in terms of political parties, and political parties, of course, mainly are tribal, we are trying to move away from that. But that is the main vehicle through which people acquire power, either by going to parliament or by ascending to presidency. It is high time that we try and look at people, and vote for people, not based on the political parties that sponsor them, but based on the ideals that they have. And that is why I'm happy this time we had so many independent candidates who are successful. But unfortunately, for one reason or another, because of the ills that affect us, you find that they are the first ones to line up when money is being given, and they actually negate the will of the people. But gradually, I think we will be able to do that. But again, we must look at our history, and you look at aspects that affect us. And the more you look at your history, the more you'll actually see the wrongs and correct what is going forward. Right now, we are being told there's an aspect of treason. And ideally, I want to say that in terms of treason, the first person who, in terms of our history, who committed treason is Jesus Christ. And you look at, and those were the charges leveled against him. And if you look at one of the aspects here, if our government was there in place then, they would have actually, Jesus will be in court today morning, because in Matthew 21:12-17, it says, Jesus went straight to the temple, threw out everyone who had set up shop, buying and selling. He kicked over the tables of loaves, shacks, and stalls of dove merchants, and he quoted this text, "My house was designated as a house of prayer. You have made it a hangout for thieves." Parliament has become a hangout for thieves. It is our house. We are told we cannot do what Jesus did. It becomes treason. And again, here the will of the people comes in. When Jesus and Barnabas were put there, Pontius Pilate, I believe, actually asked, why should I proceed as against him? And he saw nothing. But the will of the people at that point is what he followed. And the people may have been wrong, and they were wrong. But again, the will of the people, and God allowed that to happen because that was how it was structured. Whether they are wrong, whether they are right, respect the will of the people. Maybe that is the route that God wants us to follow to learn some things. So I don't have any doubt in my mind that the president means well in terms of even what he thinks. But unfortunately, or the reality is that even when Moses was so angered by the Israelites, I believe, he actually went back to God and asked, what do I do? You know, and God, knowing that this person may even have his own shortcomings and issues, said, go back, but you will not see the promised land. The president may have all what he wants, but it does not mean that within 5 years, within 10 years, we must, you know, kaza kamba mpaka it actually, we end up dying. Mm-hmm. It means just put those foundations, take us slowly. We will reach there. We will appreciate. Kibaki did that. We are appreciating up to now. You do not need to achieve everything within a short period of time at the expense of lives. Let us look at that. Let us reason. Let us learn from that. And Kenyans themselves, and especially the young generation, yes, let them learn from that.
In that scripture that he has just quoted, it has the answer where we should go as Kenyans.
I appreciate that you're my biblical guy.
When Jesus went in the temple, the first thing he demanded purity.
Yes.
By kicking people out, he said, this house must be purified. And then after purified, he said, now it should become a house of prayer. Yeah. Sometimes we pray before we purify, before we demand purity. And the purity will come in from where I work. There is something we call practice and procedure, what we do and how we do it. Until we change our practice and procedure towards our election of leaders, it becomes a problem. There must be a tool that demands purity, and then comes to prayer. And then from prayer, now we come to action itself. So what's the practice here? The practice here that we are put in place to be able to give us meritocracy is a problem. Instead, we get mediocrity. Instead of getting meritocracy, we get mediocrity. We don't get the real people in the process. So what are the manual do we follow? Are these manual from bottom in our hearts? Or they are just manual here that we get because the end justifies the means? Where we are is because of not being genuine with one another. We are talking about Gen Z. We are pretending they are Gen Z, and yet all of us are on the street. Until Kenyans come and say, it's not only Gen Z. Yesterday, you are saying they were goons there. Those goons are the brothers of those Gen Z. So did they come out and say, yes, we are part of them? They are saying, they are just Gen Z. So let's come out and be clear, be open to one another. Even 2027, if we don't come up with that, what the scripture you have read, let's demand purity. And purity will bring in meritocracy.
But then how can we achieve, Danvers, that democratic purification, given what Dr. Kanga had talked about? Because we seem to be losing the target at any given time when the opportunity presents itself.
You know how we can achieve it? It has been happening in our jurisdiction. First of all, these millennials and Gen Zs are not putting a reverse gear in what they have started. Mm-hmm. There's no reverse gear to this. I'm just telling you that. And it's a reality. And you achieve that by, one, you mentioned about the recall process. And then I know in social media there's been signatures going around to recall MPs who voted according to what the people do not want. But you achieve that. There was a time, actually, especially in the US, there is usually a wave because they have midterm elections, okay? And when people are really fed up with a specific administration's policies, whether it be the Democrats, Republicans, you see a wave both in Congress and in Senate of just people, everybody who was part of that administration or that policy, just go out. Yeah, okay, we see with a reaction, and sometimes a reaction which is never good. So whether it's a Tea Party movement, from liberal policies to ultra-conservative policies, you see that pendulum swing. So it is because we are democracy, governed by constitution. It begins with the people. Then they are saying, and there will be that purge, which Dr. Guy is saying. They are saying, enough is enough of these people, and the purge will go. Not whether you voted, however you voted. This is not the issue. It's just the representative of an issue, and that's why. So for me, we stick to 7, if not sooner. If the petitions to recall continue, no matter how hard it is, because you've seen the determination of these young people of paying their Uber, of buying their own food in KFC and Java breakfast. You see, they're really determined, and no matter how hard they made it hard to recall, with the determination they have, I will not be surprised they actually succeed in a few instances to address the question of the purge. My prayer is generally that the leaders who are there, all of us,
yes,
now we listen and now start changing course and say, what, we could have been wrong in this. Hey, we need to listen to that, because that is true repentance. Repentance means to change your mind. Okay, it is changing your mind, how you're thinking, then how you acted. So if there's not genuine, if Gen Zs and millennials don't see, and the whole country doesn't see, there's a change of tone and practice.
Okay.
The reverse gear is not going to be pulled. I truly pray now that can be. And lastly, there's a one of the people said that one of the viewers said Kenyans are not united. I think Kenyans are united. I don't think we've ever been united as now. If you look at whether this is a political movement,
yes.
So there was no yellow and blue like we had during elections. It was all yellow and all blue saying something together.
Thank you.
So Kenya actually is united on.
Yes, Namwai, the final word.
The final word is for me is that the protests should be seen for what they are. They are a form of expression by Kenyans, and even if they continue after today, I understand their protest tomorrow.
But no such the communication you talked about. You mean by who?
I've seen messages saying their protest tomorrow. That was the plan. From what I saw, I don't know by who, but the messages are going around. Even if they go on tomorrow, they are a form of expression. They are allowed under our constitution and under international law, and the state has a responsibility to protect the right to protest. To the extent that the protesters have remained peaceful like they were last week and as they were earlier yesterday, I think the state has a responsibility to allow people to protest as a form of expression and listen to what the people are saying, because the protests have only come after a lot of other avenues of communication and expression have failed, and therefore address the concerns that Kenyans have, which have been triggered by the finance bill, but are much broader. They go all the way to issues of last year and before, the economic policies that people feel are unfair to them,
Thank you.
so on.
Much appreciated. So we finish up, gentlemen, with this statement from the Law Society of Kenya dated 25th of June, and which also was embodies rather a message to the American ambassador Meg Whitman, where the Law Society of Kenya says this was a historic enough that on Monday, 24th of June 2024, as Haiti-bound Kenyan police officers took to the skies, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, invoked Section 517 of the America's Foreign Assistance Act, designating Kenya as a major non-NATO ally of the United States of America. Questions that the Law Society of Kenya is posing to the American ambassador, and also the extent of the concerns of what the Law Society says was Black Tuesday, and not just as an advocate of the High Court in regards to the president of the Law Society, but equally as a peace-loving patriot, and the address she made to the American ambassador. Also this morning, we had received communication and in regards to the reaction of what happened in Kenya yesterday from the U.S. State Department, which condemned the violence that was witnessed in Kenya. That was a brief statement. But also from New York in the United States of America, the HQ of the United Nations, the Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "I'm deeply saddened by the reports of deaths and injuries, including of journalists and medical personnel in Kenya connected to the protests and the street demonstrations in Kenya. I urge the Kenyan authorities," says Guterres, "to exercise restraint and call for all demonstrations to take place peacefully." Those are some of the global reactions that came through early this morning following what was an event-filled Tuesday yesterday and culminated with the speech from the head of state at State House in Nairobi, a defining moment for his administration and the course of action next, with the papers highlighting much of the events which happened yesterday, including the breach of Parliament's security and also the deaths that were witnessed. 145 people injured, 125 of that number admitted at the Kenyatta National Hospital, and at least 20 others across various healthcare centers in the country. A day that also saw the gazettement that was issued by the Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, and which many lawyers across the country have challenged its constitutionality, given the timelines that were never specified therein, with the deployment of the Kenya Defense Forces to assist the National Police Service in the staving off of more protests. The head of state also issued treason warning as the military is unleashed against the rioters. Danvas Makori is a commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Dan Okach is an advocate of the High Court. Namoya Otsieno, on my immediate right, Associate Director, Africa for the Human Rights Watch, and Dr. Alphonse Kanga, the Regional Chair, NCCK in Nairobi. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. What a time to have you as well at this defining juncture of our country. And thank you for watching the broadcast. Up next is Health and Lifestyle with Sakin Achian Oma.
Hey.
Why are you arresting me? Why? Give me a reason. I protest because you're killing us.
Who is killing you?
You police. You're killing us in our communities. Poor communities. Why do you want to arrest me?
Yes.
People's power. People's power. People's power. When we lose our fear, no more killings. No more killings. Usitoke, don't come. Agombo, please stay at home. We saw your efforts, okay? We saw everything that you did for Kenya. Now let us. We miss you, but Agombo, please don't even come outside. Don't come outside. Tunatoka on your behalf, okay?
Katambe, ni nyinyi mmechoose hiyo side, hakuna mtu amewaforce. Wacha Katambe, kama unitambui pia mimi sikutambui boss. Wacha Katambe, mnasema mnataka kupea Kenya bright future. True, juu Zakayo akishuka alirudishia kila mtu mali yake times.
Sisi vile sio wote ambao wanataka ugomvi kwa sababu ya ugomvi.
Niwaambia nyinyi ni wajinga mkimfuata Ruto. Mkadhani tunawadanganya.
Jeti ya Ruto. Hii maisha ya Ruto ni stress na ni stress.
Mungu wewe umetukosea.
Sound Talk sasa imeboreshwa zaidi. Kila siku ya wiki asubuhi tunapambazuka na maabudu na sifa kwenye kipindi cha Daybreak Worship. Baadaye tunakuletea mahojiano ya moja kwa moja kwenye one-on-one show. Alafu tunakuletea taarifa zinazochipuka siku hiyo zikiwa ange kwenye In the News Headlines. Kisha tunaingia bungeni. Viongozi tuliowachagua tuangalie wanafanya nini bungeni.
On a daily basis, whenever the House is sitting, the order paper is here.
I take any work that I'm given very seriously.
Not have favors. Yes. It's not appointed because you come from Nyeri.
Kisha baadaye usiku tunakutana kwenye Open Forum Political Show, kipindi kinachotadavua na kufafanua makala na taarifa zinazokuhusu zaidi.
Sasa hii ndiye time ya kuweka kila mtu question mark one by one. Ruto tumeshaweka question mark ya kutosa.
Umeenda mpaka umevuka border, umeanza kudanganya watu wenye wako US na nchi zingine.
Kazi ya kiongozi ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba vijana wako kazi.
Tazama Sound Talk uelemike. Tukutane Sound Talk.
Majina yangu ni Brian Ngika, na nafanya kazi ya beauty, kazi ya kunyoa, kushuka dreadlocks, kufanya massage na hata kupaka kucha. Na mtaa ni mtaa wa Airways hapo Zebra Utawala. Na unatazama Sound Talk.
Watch, share, like, subscribe.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you're watching. Thank you so much for being part and parcel of our conversation, even as we continue looking at various happenings in the country. Well, things are not the same again in this country after the demos yesterday, and reports are not so good with the deployment of the military. As reported, there have been some shootings continuously in the night in Githurai and other places where lives have been lost. And we are almost becoming a military state where the military are all over. Understand there is beefed up security at the state lodges and on the roads as Kenyans move around. Now, this is not what we bargained for. I don't understand what's happening, but I'm happy to see all of you, and thank you for following Sound Talk. I would love to have a talk with us, even as we look at these developments. So welcome on board, and if you have any report that you wish to share with the rest of Kenyans, I'll be sharing the link for you to join and be able to give us the updates. You can also engage us on the comment section by reporting what you feel and think about what is happening. We just had that a rerun of the Daybreak that had a discussion on the Ruto's speech to Kenyans, and it appears the speech missed the mark by far. Instead of it addressing what was going on in the country, it was a chest thumping program to show that he has power, and we should listen to him in disregard of what the law stipulates or what the constitution lays out as the hierarchy of power in the country. First and foremost, the power belongs to the people, and then the people can donate it. So William Ruto's power is donated by the people. So is Parliament's power. So is the judiciary's power. And the owners of the power are the people of Kenya, and they can recall that power at whatever time they feel. The people they send to represent them are no longer representing their interest, but doing their own thing. It's just like when you give somebody the power of attorney and he begins to, exercise it not in your interest. You have every right to withdraw the same. So I believe the Constitution and the framers of the Constitution envisioned that, and that is why, as Kenyans, we must be careful who we donate the power to. And of course, we should always appreciate that when they are no longer acting in our interest, then we have every right within the Constitution to recall back our power. So thank you very much. I can see many people here on the comment section commenting on the just concluded discussion. Okay, he says he watched as this building and hypocritically want to sanitize your evil religion is a failure. As smart as you are, religious satanism, if it is not a voice of reason, you deem with them. Now, this is a reaction to the preacher who was on the set and looked like he wants to run away from responsibility after directing the country that this is the direction and this is what God has said. Now, instead of him owning up the mistake of William Ruto and the misguiding of the nation, he begins to find an excuse and begins to compare the rallying the country behind Ruto as a baptismal name. To me, I have a lot of reservation with that, in the sense that right is right and wrong is wrong, no matter who does it. And when you are not on the right, you should own up and not look for an excuse to escape from taking responsibility. The church accepted to be misled and, of course, be bought by the dirty money of William Ruto. And as a result of that, we are in the mess we are in, and nobody should, try to find an excuse for the same. It is not right when you point your direction in a wrong direction simply because you've been settled or you've been paid to do so. That is wrong all the way, and that is also unforgivable in the sense that being a religious leader, for that matter, there is the level of trust that the public holds for you because you are a representative of God, for that matter. And so they will believe you because they have believed your message. And that's what places you in a very, very critical position, so that you be careful lest you mislead the masses. Jesus talking about the false prophets, the teachers of the law of his time. And he said that if anyone will mislead these young ones, referring to the children, and then teaches them the wrong thing, He said, let a millstone be tied around his neck and let that person be sunk into the sea. That shows the gravity of being in a position of leadership and the sense of responsibility that's placed on your shoulder. So you cannot afford to go around and say we have a democratic right and the political right to point in the direction that the nation should take in terms of political decisions without considering the gravity and the weight that your direction can land the country into. The history of William Ruto is not hidden to anybody. I mean, we have had all manner of cases after cases, and cases of corruption, cases of misappropriation of public funds. He is on record to have been sacked by Raila Odinga when Raila Odinga was a prime minister in the Grand Coalition. We've had all these issues, the Y2K 92. We had all the issues with the Moi family and all that, the Mteshi farm and all that. So all this was barely before us. And to turn around and begin to now, lead the country into supporting somebody who cannot be relied upon, somebody who cannot be trusted, and you say he can be trusted, he is your candidate, and then thereafter, after you campaign, you now want to turn around and disown that. That is very dishonest and hypocritical. So I agree with that comment. The religious leaders, especially those who advocated for William Ruto as a competent and fine candidate and wherever presidential material, and rallied the country to elect such, should own up. In fact, they should be the first one in Uhuru Park to lead in the repentance. There are no two ways to this. We are where we are because the religious leaders who rallied around William Ruto failed to help the country discern and help the country see the mess we could get in with this kind of leadership. And so, see what's happening now. The constitution seems to be suspended. Our children are being killed, without caring. The shootings, there are some videos, probably will not be able to share them, but the shootings are just, scary. That people, and then William Ruto calls them goons. So these people who are shooting people in Githurai are the goons? Or who are they? Well, let me know. Thank you so much for being part and parcel of this. I'll give it maybe a few minutes. If there is anybody who want to get in the studio and air their view, here is the link. You can click on it, allow Streamer to configure for you the camera as well as the audio, and you will be in this space for us to get talking. I salute each one of you from wherever you are, and continuing to be part and parcel of what we are doing at Sound Candy Talk. Thank you so much. Sound Candy Talk Live has 15 people. Sound Candy Talk 13 people. We are dropping, ni kama ujumbe umeisha, kama tumetosheka basi, we'll call it a day, but I just want to appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, and urge you to continue ensuring that you share this widely. And then, of course, ensure that if you're not yet a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. Just give it what it takes for it to be what it should be. Ordinary 2030 says the finance bill is a trigger. The mismanagement of our resources are political by the political elite, and going ahead to vomit on us with their families through a lavish lifestyle has been loading. That is very true. That is very true. Modesty is one of the requirements of people, especially those who are charged with the leadership responsibility. You cannot be, we say that too much of anything is poisonous. You cannot be bragging around people who have not gotten a meal for ages, by how well you ate and threw away the remains of your eating. and then how you have your wardrobe, I mean your fridge full, your kitchen well furnished, and everything you desire you can eat. I mean, you don't give that kind of testimony before people who are suffering. What we are being treated to, especially by the Kenya Kwanza administration and the people who are now claiming to be in power, is that we don't matter, that everything revolves around them and they are the ones who eat. Look at the way they have stipulated that 600 million goes to renovate the deputy president's house. There is 900 billion that is released for the renovation of State House and things like that. I mean, we can barely feed, we can barely send our children to school. Then you come to tell us that you want to how many millions for the first lady's house. I mean, first lady's office, then second lady, then the president's daughter office, and all that. I mean, what is the mess? What is this all about? And so Kenyans are justified in raising their concern about what is going on. We cannot go on like this. Our economy is ailing. We are hardly recovered. We have hardly recovered from the effects of COVID-19. And then somebody gets in office, and the first thing he does is to lead a lavish lifestyle at the expense of the taxpayers. That's unacceptable. And this is what their pastor is supposed to call them to order to. They cannot be parading around and showing off their 1.6 million wristwatch and their 500,000 belts and their 2 million pair of shoes. And then you run around and say you're going to beg the international community to come and help you on floods and other things. This is not it. All the same, thank you very much, Namona Selfana Masaka. Thank you so much. Obadiah Mukua says, "Shame on Ruto. We can send the police to Haiti streets, but we are putting military in our Kenyan streets. Shame on you, Ruto. Shame on you, and your godfathers who are sponsoring the police to Haiti." Exactly. It is unbelievable that at home we need the military and the police are needed in Haiti. It's crazy, and that's why there is I understand a cancellation of an international peace meeting that William Ruto was to attend. Now he's been told not even to attend. Things are getting thick out there, and that is why, as Kenyans, we shouldn't relent. We should not give up. Our country must be recovered, and for it to be recovered, we must all hold hands together and push the bad leadership out of office. And that is what I call on each one of us, not to relent, not to compromise on this one. I mean, there is how far we can be pushed, and there is how far we can take in. Well, another view here by Ordinary 2030, he said the so-called sacred places are not more sacred than the life of the kids killed. After all, these places have been used by political elite to oppress the masses. They are colonial relics, not sacred. Now, this is also another reality. Thank you so much for bringing this up. We kind of want to safeguard buildings and destroy lives at the same time. I mean, a building can be put up after it has been burned down or even destroyed to the floor. But when somebody is shot dead, he is dead. He cannot be gotten back. So between guarding the building and protecting life, where should we put the priority? I mean, how do we go shooting young people who are carrying the future of this country, and then you want to tell us that you're protecting the sacred building called parliament? What is that? I mean, this kind of reasoning is supposed to be, in the dustbin somewhere. The sacredness of life surpasses every sacred place anywhere. And we need to be on the forefront to ensure that that happens. And so this issue of sacred places, no sacred cows and no sacred places when it comes to the sanctity of life. Life should be protected at all costs. And the police should be a people that are able to constrain themselves, able to control themselves. You're not issued with a gun and the bullet so that you can shoot anything that passes before you. That's irresponsible. That's unethical. Until your life is in danger, it's when you're supposed to use your gun. It's not at everything that passes before you shoot. What's going on right now in this country is unacceptable, and anybody in their right senses should be able to condemn this. We can't kill our children just like that because we don't like them or they don't agree with us or they are agitating for something that we are not willing to give them. The killings must stop, and the people responsible for the killings must be brought to book. So this maiming of people in Kidurai and otherwise must be stopped. And if the people who are behind it, they should be held liable. We can't go on like this. No, this is not the Kenya our forefathers envisioned at the start of this country. So let's be vigilant. Thank you very much. Let's get one more comment as we wrap up this particular presentation. Obadiah says it's good that we are talking about the Bible and the purity. It needs to start with the church and at intoxicated what? Okay, most of the churches are dirty. They are the den of thieves and all corruption. Church leaders need to pray and come back to God once again for forgiveness. Some church leaders are dirty. They have done all the damage to Kenya. Sadly, but true, we have fallen from what the church ought to be. Bible calls us the light of the world. The Bible calls us the salt of the earth. But the church has not lived up to that name. We have gotten mixed up with darkness that now we have even lost taste for being the light we ought to be. And all of it is our uncontrolled appetite for the politicians' money. That when we see money, we forget the Holy Spirit, we forget the Bible, we forget the right standing that we have with God and in the society. We fall flat. That to me is evil, is unbecoming. We can't take that anymore. And so for us to recover our country, we must ensure that we do what is necessary in saving what must be saved. I want to salute everyone. Thank you so much, Angela. I say Ruto ni shetani mwenyewe in human form. Sad, sad, sad indeed. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage. I can see my friends coming in. All right, let's see. Okay, I can see Thomas. I can see. All right, so we'll give opportunity to those who want to share in the conversation to do so as we continue to engage. Karibisha mtu, labda tutaweza kujifunza kitu kimoja au kingine katika mazungumzo yetu. Karibu kila moja, tumakinike. All right. Okay, thank you. Well, asante sana. Namuona Thomas. Thomas, hali vipi? Bwana Thomas, you unmute. The mic is beside your name on the screen.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bernard. I'm happy to join again today. And just a simple comment from the beginning. I really appreciate your good work and your commitment to keep Kenyans informed. I call it civic education, which is very necessary. I really applaud you because the level we have reached at this point is a result of your commitment and keeping us in discussions, talking, engaging, advising each other on the need to continue voicing our opinions as we try to shape the leadership in the country and general governance. So keep it up. Indeed, your efforts are yielding fruits, and it will continue as such. That's short. Just to encourage each and every one of us, we will keep doing this. We will keep doing this. And remember, the journey is not only about Kenya. We want to do it step by step, and the ultimate goal should be to liberate the whole Africa, for us to enjoy economic freedom, for us to enjoy the fruits and the good that God placed in the land of Africa, which is through the agricultural and also through the mining sector. Everything we will achieve it. Thank you. I'll be able to share more with regard to the specific agenda when I'll get time later. Be blessed.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas. We appreciate that. As we continue to engage, ladies and gentlemen, karibisha mtu ili tumakinike pamoja. Hapa ndipo Wakenya wanakutana kuzungumza masuala ya nchi yao, na tuko hapa kwa sababu mambo yanayokumba nchi hii ni mabaya sana, na shida kubwa ni kwamba yanatokana na uongozi mbaya, na huu uongozi kinachouma sana ni kwamba ulishabikiwa na viongozi wa kanisa haswa, na katika hiyo hali basi hata mambo ya kwenda mrama, sasa viongozi wa kanisa wameshindwa, watasema nini? And that is a very sad state of affairs. Well, as we continue to engage, thank you so much. Let's like the video, let's share widely, and then of course, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, follow us. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course, we want to see to it that we reach as more people as possible. Domi, how are you?
I'm very fine, Reverend. Happy to see you.
Umejificha sana, umelemewa na Gachagua. Ama ulienda kuweka simiti kwa mlima na yeye.
Unasikia Sifuna anasema Gachagua is become a saint.
If Gachagua is better, now it appears that the standards are very low.
The standards have gone too low. There's a day I made a comment on Facebook, and one of my friends akaniuliza, and are you sure it's not an insult? You see, okay, my comment was this: when you are led by idiots and they start making sense to you, my friend, you are in shit. Be sure that where you are, you have to check yourself well, because things are so bad. Now, if Gachagua becomes a saint, then hey, Mungu atusaidie. Okay, I wanted to comment on I don't know, much of my time I have. I talk so much. My greater interest is about the church. This let me go to what our pastor or whatever who was there was telling us when he was asked when the how do you call it, the back was brought to his feet, that to his table, that you see here, the person we should blame square is the church. And now, trying to shield himself, he started off by saying, you see, everybody is baptized. We baptize all of you. And what is now? I'm trying to imagine the person who baptized Ruto was the person lesser than the person who baptized Raila? Or I mean, was he a bit greater than the person who baptized? Or in whose name was Raila baptized? That was not the name that baptized Ruto. To me, that one does not make sense. Now, if we are going to talk about going to church, Raila also goes to church. The difference here was that when Ruto goes to church, he makes much more noise, like a hen delivering an egg, while a cow giving 50 liters of milk does not even make much noise. You see, to me, it does not make sense. Worst of all, now he's telling us that, you see, he got to a point whereby he was saying, everybody, trying to generalize to say that everybody is the same. Everybody is the same. I think we don't read the Bible. The Bible has clearly explained and it talked about qualities of good leaders. Reverend, I think you know the Bible better than I do. Is it not in the Bible? Please help me. It's there. And God, God was deliberate when he was talking of that. Meaning there are no two people that are same. So we cannot say that because this one is bad, so the other one can also be bad. No. The thing is, we have been given clearly qualities of good leadership. When Ruto was walking around, everybody knew the character of Ruto. All preachers knew. There's a day I was challenging on another forum, one of our preachers somewhere who was telling us that, who was telling me that, you see, everybody is a sinner. Everybody is a sinner, so we cannot take that as a key factor on choosing who is the better leader. And I asked this guy, okay, what he was basing on is that when somebody comes into Christ, he becomes a new creation. So we believe that Ruto, when he came to Christ, was a new creation. Then I asked you this, and I think also you as a servant of God, you can bear me witness. Imagine we have a thief who has gotten saved, and he joins the church. Then after 3 weeks, we got another branch opened. Yeah, we have opened another branch. We have opened another branch in Machakos. Now, in this Machakos branch, we have seen a very vibrant man of God who got born again 3 weeks ago. We are going to send him there to be the pastor. Do we do that?
we don't do that. Leave alone the branch. This chief that God saved the other day, we now want to make him church treasurer. Are we not tempting the devil to tempt us?
Now the theme has become is to become the church treasurer. Really, the problem is that Kenyans, we believe in deception to the extent that we make deception like on the throne. We have put deception on the throne to rule us. That's the problem with the Kenyans. We don't want, I've interacted, apparently, it's not a boasting, but somehow I've interacted with different races. And hapa ndio wazungu wanatushindia. And I'll say that hapa ndio wazungu huwa wanatushindia. They are better than us because of this. These guys, they don't sugarcoat. They call it as it is. There was a day, I observed a meeting when, okay, they were doing a Zoom meeting, and we were traveling, we were in a car. Now my boss, my boss Eda, they were in a management. It was a managers meeting. Okay, the middle management meeting, and they were telling the senior manager that, you see, this guy, what he's telling us is nonsense. We could hear what they were saying. It is nonsense. They were not sugarcoating. They just said this is nonsense. We cannot do this, and they put it boldly to the manager, to the senior manager, and they questioned the senior manager. You see, we are, and by the way, I remember you were in that meeting. Why didn't you ask this? These are people who are like, they are putting pressure to the senior manager so that not to allow such a kind of nonsense to go on. And that is how they call it. The problem with us is, you want to sugarcoat, you want to make somebody look like Kumubamba Maua. Apana. Call it as it is. Let us not call, like now we keep calling Ruto'S government corrupt. I don't think that's the word. This government is full of thieves. That is the way you are supposed to put it. Corruption is an understatement. Yeah. If you can see somebody dressing with a watch worth 1 million, my friend, this money you cannot go to buy a watch worth 1 million if you are earning 1 million in a month. No, you can't. That is too high. No.
So bwana Domi to shikilia hapo. Asante. Fred, namna gani?
Mimi niko salama bwana. Mimi kitu ya kwanza na apologize kwa wenye wako hapa. Mimi nilipiga kura yangu vibaya sana na regret.
Toba yako imekubalika, askofu huyo hapo juu.
Sasa kitu nasema, unanisikia kweli?
Yes, endelea tunakusikiliza.
Sijui kama mwenye ana advise Ruto ni hii class 2 dropout Oscar Sudi ama ni nani. Na sijui kama hii Oscar Sudi saa anafaa, sijui kama anajua kuona ni saa ngapi. Jua anafaa zile masaa zile ziko few in the world. Wao wako already nazo. Expensive watches. Wao ndio wanafaa. Alafu sasa kitu na jaribu kushangaa na huyu Ruto. Hii ni kitu angeita state emergency. I deploy jeshi, awatoe kwa boda, akuje kudeploy Nairobi jeshi kwa GNC. Kitu anasahau, hao watoto wako runned than him. Wamesoma kuliko huyo Ruto. Wametumia hii elimu yao vilivyo. Sasa wataweza anguza hii serikali, achunge sana. Hao jeshi hakuna kitu watamsaidia. Hao watoto wamesoma, wamesoma hizo setbook wameletewa wakasoma, wamezisoma, wameona Ruto ni kama mstahiki meya, ni kama hiyo kigogo, sijui hizo setbook zinaitwa aje ya agency wamesoma. Sasa tumefail yenyewe as a country. Ruto is a failure. I totally apologize. I voted to him lakini is a failure. I do regret.
Okay, sawa, asante sana Fred. Wanasema kosa sio kufanya kosa ni kurudia kosa. Sasa vile wewe umeona haya mambo, ambia kila mtu aelewe kwamba kuna kitabu tulisoma shule kinaitwa Kisima cha Kiningi ambacho
mazee 2027 sijui kama atabaki uongozini, hatujui kama ujama hata nitukue wapi, lazima tupige kura. Hawezi tuzuia huyu jamaa. Ametuharibia nchi bwana. Nchi yenye hatuwezi invest.
Okay. Sawa, shikilia hapo, tutarejea kwako shortly. Thank you. Katika Kisima cha Kiningi tunapata wasia ambao baba anapatia kwa mwanawe, anamwambia anaitwa nani, mjomba wako alikuwa anaitwa Halima Kame, anambia mwambae kama unavyoambaa jini au shetani. So kuna ile advice ambayo tunapaswa kupatia Wakenya. William Ruto anapaswa kuambilika kama tunavyoambaa jini au shetani. And it's all evident that he has the highest office. He's supposed to make very sensitive decisions for the country, and he doesn't care about the interests of the country. How bad can one get? That you have the highest office, you're supposed to make very sensitive decisions, and your decisions are not in any way reflecting what the Kenyan people want, that the Kenyan people take to the street to tell you no, and you still call the members of parliament, call Wetangula, and say yo kitu ipite mara moja, against the anger of Kenyans, and you expect you're going to have business as usual. If William Ruto wants to keep himself in office using the military, he would have come into power using the military. Now that he claimed he's democratically elected, we must get rid of him because he has violated that same constitution that has mandated him to do whatever he wishes, or rather he thinks he can do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining from wherever you are. This is Sound Candy Talk. We're having a short conversation with the Kenyans here who wants to see the very best of this country. So as you join us from wherever you are, let's just get a few of these videos, and then naweza kurudi kwa nani, kwa Domi naye atoe maoni yake. Okay, this is the general himself. He has pronounced himself over the Ruto fiasco and the Ruto Manenos. That is the senior counsel Miguna himself. Let's listen now to him and then weigh on what.
Comrades, Gen Zs, and millennials, greetings. I wish to express my heartfelt condolences for those who have lost loved ones and those who have been injured or maimed by Ruto's goons all over the country today. I also wish to say thank you very much for showing Ruto that the country belongs to 54 million Kenyans and not to him and his cronies. The country does not belong to those that they elected. Ruto must resign now. Ruto must resign now. The KK government must be dissolved now so that we can have fresh elections. I am aware that they are planning to declare a state of emergency or impose martial law and curfews. We reject that completely. We are going to occupy everywhere. Every inch of Kenya belongs to the people of Kenya. There shall be no conferences in Kenya, including Nairobi, presided over by the puppet of IMF and World Bank, William Ruto. We want to send a clear message to Ruto. Your time is up. Pack up and go. Viva.
Okay, Domi, Ruto should pack up and go. Miguna amesema.
In as much as for some time I've not been a very good fan of Nani Miguna, but I usually believe when you are right, you are right. Even if you are an enemy of everybody, but anytime you are right, you are just right. You know, I'm just trying to think of the conscience. I'm trying to just think, does Ruto even have the conscience? I came to realize that you better lose a sense of touch that is a physical one than lose your conscience. Because a sense of touch, probably you can go to hospital and be treated. But when you lose your conscience, you are in a pit. Because now you will do anything without thinking. Conscience helps you think right. Conscience will at least control your emotions. Conscience will make you see ahead. You feel that even if I don't know what is coming ahead of me, but I think taking this step is not going to get me well. At least when you're wrong, you can think again and say, I'm sorry, I should not have gone that way. Let's take another turn. Conscience appeals to wisdom. Conscience appeals to wisdom. Wisdom is easily activated when you have conscience. Ruto, I think somebody told him that when he becomes president, he's now everything. So and I think this is where now we are supposed to also understand, to also put in mind when you are choosing leaders. To me, Ruto has not disappointed me. Very well, he has not disappointed me, because I heard him well when he was campaigning. I heard him well when he was campaigning, and he was so clear in his vision that if you listen well, you would understand that Ruto was not coming to power because of Kenyans. He was coming to power because of himself. So if going to kill Kenyans because of staying in power, to him that's what he wanted. He wanted to exercise power. I was listening to Miles Munro someday, and he was saying, you do not need power when you're doing the right thing. You just need wisdom on how to handle the right thing, and you'll not need power. Because when you're handling it, people will when you're doing things with wisdom, people will understand what you're doing, and they are likely, you will have at least 80% to agree with you. When you have more people agree, you have no much problem. But if at all, when you are wrong, when you're wrong, you're wrong. When you're doing a wrong thing, you need to force people to agree with what you are doing, the wrong thing. You really need power to do what is right. You really need to force people to agree with what is right. If they understand. Sorry, somebody's calling and he's interfering with what comes. So I think, to me, Ruto wanted to do the joyriding. The way he saw Uhuru was joyriding, and he's a hustler, so he wants also to do the joyriding as those people do the joyriding. He saw Uhuru because he's rich, so he wants to be as rich as Ruto.
You respond to the call alafu tarudi. Sorry.
Okay.
Asante. I appreciate that. Domi is bringing up a very important point on the issue of leadership and the church trying to pretend now by saying that if everybody comes for baptism, they get baptism on them, but they are not responsible for the character of the person. That is not a valid argument. And it is all speaks volumes on the kind of people we have in the church leadership. Because even when I was going for baptism, we were taken for a baptismal discipleship class. and then we're given opportunity to choose between. He said, after baptism, you have crossed from death to life. Okay, you die to yourself. You must accept to live for Christ for the rest of your life. So the baptism process itself is a vow you are taking to say no to yourself and yes to Jesus forever. And so you cannot tell us that you're giving Christian names that and then you're not responsible for people to behave like Christians. Secondly, the church has a stipulated way of who becomes a leader. One of it is that he must be a husband of one wife. He should have his family well ordered. He should have his children in good behavior. So it is not just a matter of people offering themselves to leaders and then you appoint them to leadership. And that is one place that we are playing with in this country. We have chapter 6 of the Constitution that stipulates the conduct of people who should be assigned or allowed to be in public office. If we don't engage chapter 6 to tell us who should be in office and who should not be in office, then we allow every thug and every thief to get into office. And what do we get? What we are having right now, because we let the thief cross from the sieve and got in the cup. After you make your tea, you sieve the tea from you sieve the tea leaves from the tea so that you can drink the tea. But now, if the tea leaves sneak through your sieve and get into your tea is not going to be as fine as it is when it has been sieved properly. And so the people that brushed off chapter 6, the people that did not put in serious consideration the provision of chapter 6 are the reason why we are where we are. And I can't help but go back to the Uhuru Kenyatta statement, okay? And of course, Marathe's statement. We will not give power to the thief. What happened? What changed? Because we knew everything. We had all the evidence. We had all the indicators. Why did we not stick by we cannot give power to a thief? We cannot give a power to somebody who has questionable character. That's what happens in all societies. If we have a questionable person, although it may be even his turn to be in power, but because he has questionable character, he should be denied that opportunity. That's what makes a father to leave an estate to the third born, if the firstborn and the secondborn, although it's rightfully their birthright, but they are irresponsible. So a father will rather leave the estate to the thirdborn, who will be able to take care of the firstborn, the secondborn, and the rest of the siblings. That is what happens in any serious civil society. What happened until we gave power to people with questionable character, and we expect that when they get sworn in, they will behave better, that they will do the right thing? I don't think so. And so as Kenyans and as we engage, we must internalize this matter seriously. Who are we putting in office? The thieves? Kama vile tunasema hata kama ni mwizi anaibanga akituletea. That's how watu wa church ndio walikuwa wanasema hivyo. Okay? Saa hii ameanza kuiba akikula. Awaletei. Sasa ndio mnaanza kulia. Lazima turekebishe injili, na kurekebisha injili ni kurudia masuala yetu ambayo yanapaswa kutumika kama vigezo vya kuchagua viongozi. Sio kila mtu anapaswa kuwa kwa ballot paper. Sio kila mtu anapaswa kuvai for public office. Our constitution spells out what kind of person should be on the ballot, what kind of person should be considered for leadership. If we deal it at the nomination level, if we clean it at who qualifies to vie, then we'll have credible people to be put in office. And we don't need even to worry about who the person is, because we have already passed them through the sieve and they have passed the test. And of course, I'm tempted to bring in the Bible. You know that I'm a Bible teacher and that's my responsibility. Look at Samuel goes to pick the king of Israel. What happens? He goes to pick the king of Israel at Jesse's home. Then when he reaches at Jesse's home, Jesse lines up his boys. Okay, this one is tall and handsome. This one is dark and handsome. This one is well built, a military officer, and all that. They parade their prowess and their goodness. But what
This one
happens?
has dimples.
This one has dimples, of course. And this one has muscles. And then the prophet is deceived to see this tall, dark, and handsome. He said, this must be the king of Israel. But what happens? The God intercepts. He say he looks like one, but he is not. Okay? Because God looks differently. Men look on the outward, but God looks on the heart. And all the 7 sons fail the exam. Now that's what we are failing to do in Kenya. We want anybody to be on the ballot, anybody to be considered for leadership. That is not how to run a country. The country is run by getting the top cream, the best of the best, to compete among the best. And we settle for the very best among the best to lead us. But now we have taken the worst of the worst, the idiots, the semi-literate, the incompetent. Then we give them a big office, a big car, a big office. Now they are buying big wristwatch, big shoes, big belts. And hey, come on. Something must happen to us. And as Kenyans, if we don't learn this lesson and repent once and then get serious about who we put in office, we will always have this problem and it will keep persisting. Asante sana. I can see Domi, sijui kama malizana simu yako. Can you conclude tumlete Olumu naye aseme ya kwake?
Mpatia okay.
Bwana Olumu, how are you? Okay, let me just help you. There is a mic. There you go. How are you?
I'm okay, brother Bernard, after so long. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. Karibu sana.
Asante, tumefikia hapo penye tulikuwa tunazungumza some time back.
Tunarambwa.
Tumefikia hapo and we had talked about it earlier kwamba kitakuja umana.
Yes.
So kitu kikubwa, God is in charge. That's the first thing. And even as you've highlighted on the Jesse issue with the Samuel, we have failed terribly because of our tribal inclinations. And so because of that, we have found ourselves at the crossroads. But the best thing...
Sorry, Bwana Olumu, ni kama network imekataa. Samahani. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. It's like my guests are having issues with the net. Ni ile kitu Zakaya anafanya. Nashukuru tu, naomba tafadhali tumakinike, tuendelee kukaribishana. Tunapotamatisha mazungumzo haya, we have like another 20 or so minutes. And I want to salute every one of you. Thank you so much. Tune in na kuona tena. Tuko mchana usiku kwa pamoja. Asante sana. Nashukuru. Kwa haya House of Heru, asante sana. Kile kinachoendelea, sijui kama kuna mtu na updates ya masuala ya Githurai. Is the shooting still on? And what's happening? I saw some posting that 45 bodies have been, found in Githurai. I don't know who can confirm that. Would want to have raw information from raw people who are on the ground. How is the situation in Githurai? Somebody sent me a video of the military people all over the Nakuru highway and taking charge of the Nakuru State Lodge to secure it. I don't know. So let me know where you are and, of course, how you are getting this done. In the meantime, as I wait for Domi to get back or Loom, let's listen out to this. It is a day in this country that we all must not joke around. What's going on in this country is unforgivable. Asante sana. Let's just watch this shortly as we engage further.
The finance bill. Mtarenovate aje nyumba ya DP na mwangalie, hizi ni classroom za a primary school zinakaa hivi. Hii eboche niingie ndani niwaoneshe wase venye kunakaa. There is another window. Okay. So guys, this is the classroom. Juu, if they were taxing us to renovate classes, to renovate, you know, hospitals, to build us new infrastructure, tungekubali. Lakini mnatuambia je tunaenda kurenovate nyumba ya DP senye our classes zinakaa hivi. Ebu angalia, aki I'm so mad. Ebu angalia, when was the last time a class ilipaintiwa? Mnaweza fikiria ni chocha, wacha nionyeshe class nyingine. Mnaweza fikiria natafuta ile like ebu angalieni. Mnaweza fikiria ni class moja peke yake ama najitafutilia maneno. If we were being taxed for our classes kutengenezwa, tungekubali, lakini mnaniambia mnaenda ebu angalia class. Hata ebu niambie watu kugonjeka ni dakika ngapi? You guys, I don't know if you can see this.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's sad and sad indeed that we have our priorities upside down. We want to take care of 2 people at the expense of 54 million Kenyans. What a world. Well, I really want us to, you know, think soberly and to be able to judge these things fairly. To me, leadership is putting yourself last and putting your nation first. It's not putting yourself first and putting the nation last. What William Ruto and Gachagua are doing, which is seen in more of their actions than what they say, is that being in power means your turn to eat, your turn to enjoy, your turn to, you know, have it the way you want and the way you feel, which to me is adolescent, it is childish, and such people should not be allowed to be anywhere the seat of power is. The Bible says, woe unto you, O land, if thy prince or thy king be a child, and that he eats in the morning. We allowed children to take over the seat of power and see how they are treating us. They are eating in the morning. Eating in the morning means before they farm, before they plant, before they harvest, they are eating. So if they are eating before they do that, that means they are eating whatever they were to plant. And what happens? Nothing is left for anyone to eat after them. And so as a country, we must wake up and understand that God wants us to be responsible, and responsibility means our leadership cannot be left to chance, And so lazima tupevuke na lazima tuangalie masuala haya kwa kina na tuyashughulikie ipasavyo. Thank you so much. Namuona Olumu amerejea. Karibu bwana Olumu, tamatisha kile ulikuwa unasema.
Brother Bernard, I'm sorry for the internet hitch.
So, now you're okay. Go ahead, but the children's voices, no.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I was trying to say some time back, probably last year or 2 years ago, we talked about what we are witnessing right now. And our people did not, I think some of them did not take us seriously. But now what they have brought us into is what we are experiencing today. And firstly, you mentioned about being a Bible school teacher or a teacher in the Bible, of which I'm a believer. And there is a notion that today I would want to put across to erase it and to cancel it or to bury it once and for all. When when our president was moving around, it was purported he was moving around in the church. And I want to put it very close, categoric, that the church of Jesus Christ cannot be infiltrated with the evil. What was happening, the guy infiltrated the religious clubs or religious supermarkets, whereby the owners who are supposedly to be bishops, who are the owners of the supermarkets, were the guys that misled their members that were their customers. So as the church, we cannot be bought, we cannot be bribed, because we know who we are. We are the body of Christ, and we cannot be coerced or even be bribed. That said, so far, because we have arrived here, we have to keep on petitioning God for his mind, for his only way to sail through, because God is in this. God is in what is happening right now in our country. It could be the time for erasing all the nonsense that has been so much infiltrating our nation and all our sectors as a country. So mimi sitakuwa na mengi saizi, but kama jinsi ulikuwa unasema some time back, lazima mtoza ushuru Zakayo ashuke chini.
Amina, amina, amina. Asante sana, tunashukuru. Bwana Wakanda, your gadget is not well configured. If you can get me, please just restart. If you're using your phone, restart it afresh. Then when you join, allow StreamYard to configure it for you. Don't deny control by StreamYard, the app we are using, to set your phone so that you are able to communicate when you get in the studio. Yeah, it is important that as Kenyans, we think clearly and make decisions that are fully informed. What's going on in our country is uncalled for, it is irresponsible, and it's because of the incompetent leadership of William Ruto. Tuni Mohamud hapa nasema Ruto wants to rule like Museveni. That is his dream, which in my opinion, we have to stop him before he turns this country into what Museveni turned Uganda into. That when he coughs, everybody lies low and follows what he demands. And that there is no need for elections. Elections become a ceremony that we observe after every 5 years. But we already have a president even before the ballot is printed. That must not be allowed to happen in our country. And so as we continue to engage, let's ensure that we do the right thing. And the right thing is we never go wrong doing the right thing. We never go wrong doing the right thing. And so insisting on what is right and what is just is the surest way for us to save this country. It doesn't matter how much we defend corruption, we defend twisted and lawlessness. If we are not doing the right thing, we are part of the problem. And so as Kenyans of goodwill, we can't stop calling what is out of order so that we can get the required order. Bwana Wakanda, how are you today? Unmute. The mic is beside your name on the screen. Sorry. Get back. When you get the opportunity to speak, you must unmute first before you can be heard. Just come in if you are able to get me, Wakanda, please. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a conversation we are having on Sound Candy Talk. Nashukuru wote ambao mmejiunga nasi, naomba tumakinike na tuendelee kutekeleza wajibu wetu. Bwana
Unanipata Bernard?
Sasa
Yes, I can hear. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. First, thank you, Bernard, for always bringing the current affairs on this platform. First and foremost, let me condemn the killing that is happening in Kenya. It's very sad that that an issue that involves public participation ends up like this. I'm still wondering, how can an issue where it's a choice between you either accept this bill or we kill you. I don't know how we reached at that point. Like, for Ruto, we have to accept the bill or he kills us. I don't know why it's a debate between the bill, like life and death. Like, accept the bill or you die. I still don't know. So for me, the only negotiation that we can engage in, it will happen maybe perhaps on Twitter Spaces. There is there's nothing like calling a few young people on a corner. No, the only negotiation which will happen, it will be on Twitter Spaces. And there are two issues. Number one, our problem is now Ruto, because the parliament has passed it. Our problems are only two. Number one is the MPs who voted yes. Those ones, they have to go home. The issue has gone beyond now rejecting the finance, because already they have passed it. So moving forward, the MPs, the 200 MPs who voted yes, those ones have to go home first. We have to do a by-election. The second issue is now the issue has gone to the president. Ruto as an opportunity right now not to assent to that bill. And is also another problem. He has to go home. There are only two issues, because already young people have been killed. It's either he goes home, or he can also choose to resurrect the young people who have been shot by policemen. If he can resurrect them, I have no issue. Yeah, he can resurrect them, and he can also he can also reject the bill. So Ruto, only two things you are asking from Ruto: reject the bill and resurrect the young people that have been killed. Only two, very simple. Very simple. Resurrect those young people. We want those lives back. And you reject the bill, because initially we were asking for the bill to be rejected. So if he knows he cannot resurrect the young people, let him go to Uganda and Nakuendanga. Let him go. We don't need him, because if you look at Kenya, in the end of the day, what we need, the money we need for development is our money. It's not his money. So whether he goes, we don't need him. If he goes, the better, because he's not going. We are the same people. We are the taxpayers' money. Because I can't understand why this bill is very connected with the lives. Like, he has to kill that one. That one I still can't understand. So moving forward, I think those two things have to happen. These members of parliament must go home. Their duty ends there. And Ruto pia ende. Let him go home. Maybe let me reflect a bit how we got here. It's not a blame game, but to some of us, we have to also point fingers somewhere. So Ruto had allegations that he murdered people, and he is a criminal who was taken to ICC. Today, the person who has allegations of murder in ICC is calling peaceful protesters criminals. And for long, I think for long he's also been using the churches as a platform to make whatever he's doing, like as a moral compass. Like, he loves God, he goes to church, but right now he cannot also go to those churches. Amefungiwa. So as we move on, I don't know, the social media akuna, he has no space. So the only thing he can do is to surrender and leave. Ruto has only one option. Kama kuna kili yenye imebaki, achukue yenye ameiba, atoroke aende venye ameenda. Because it will reach a point yenye hata chukua hata yenye imebaki. Because eventually, after killing, the other option yenye ako nayo, because hii maandamano itaenda Friday, sisi tunangoja saba. Kuna watu watakuja wenye wako ni hivi saba na kuja, I'll be there. So for some of us tunangoja hiyo saba. After saba, we will put this rage ikue for 3 months. So we are giving him 3 months. 3 months ikipita, tutaenda mpaka next year until aende. Hakuna hii story ya kublame Raila sijui nini. The beauty of this, some of us, we are so happy that Baba may sit back. Normally wana blame Baba, wanamuita when unaharibu Kenya, they put it like it's us versus them. It is us ruling regime versus opposition. But kwa hii hakuna. That is the confusion yenye inawasumbua. Because it is Ruto versus Kenyans. Very simple. Ruto versus Kenyans. There's no way, so far, there's no way he can create that narrative that hawa wa Kenya sijui nini wanatumiwa na opposition. No, hapo naye hakuna. It is us versus him, the financial bill, the finance bill. So that finance bill is just a representation of the bigger picture, of the lies, of the promises he made, of the bottom up. And some of us from this platform, by hiyo wakati, we said, hii bottom up venye tulikuwa tunaiangalia, tulikuwa tunaona huyu jamaa na target watu wa chini. He's going to tax the common man. His interest was to increase the tax bracket without thinking of increasing the income. Because you only increase the tax bracket by increasing the number of people working, but you cannot impose more taxes and you refuse to expand the economy. So hapo ndio alikosea, but I think his time is up. Sioni venye ata survive. His time is up.
Okay, sawa, thank you bwana Wakanda, tunashukuru sana. William Ruto, in my opinion, he has zero economic sense, because when Kibaki turned around this economy from negative to positive, and we were paying taxes. In fact, we were shocked that he says that he is collecting more than 3 times more he was collecting. Nobody was feeling anything. Why? Because he addressed the production, increased the number of productive Kenyans, made tuk-tuk to get in, duty-free, made boda to come in, made more people to begin to have an income. Then with
there was economic stimulus package. Yeah, he had an economic stimulus program, which was pumping more resources to the economy. And but this guy, no economic stimulus program. How will you uplift the economy?
By collecting more sadaka in people's pockets.
Yeah. He's like someone engaging in betting. It's like a betting program.
Too sad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the final end of this afternoon discussion. I believe you are learning 1 or 2 things. Please, if you have not subscribed, subscribe. And then, of course, make a date with us. We'll be coming in early this evening as we engage in this extensive discussion. But my interest is everybody, especially those of you on the ground. Ningependa sana kupata mtu wa Kidurai aniambie vile mambo kunakaa huko. It's very painful, and then to look at it that it is the government that is making this thing happen. It is unforgivable. But we will be looking at that extensively, and by our night show, we'll have gotten more details on the killings, because from what I'm hearing, it is not just in Kidurai. The deployment is almost everywhere, and lives are being lost. And if William Ruto thinks by shooting our children and maiming others will keep him in power, then he will know the power of the people is bigger than the power of an individual. And this nation is bigger than an individual. It belongs to all of us as Kenyans, and nobody should look like yeye ndio landlord wetu, sisi ndio tenants wake. We are not his slaves, we are not his properties. He is a Kenyan just like we are. And being given a position of leadership doesn't in any way make you superior in a way that you want us to worship you. Hiyo haiwezekani. So let's put that in mind. So Bwana Wakanda will give you the last word. You can weigh on what we have said. Then we begin to call it a day.
Of military was uncalled for. And on the said issue was a issue of civic engagement. Like it was a question of public participation. People were giving their input. Demonstrations and picketing is allowed in our constitution. It's part of our 2010 constitution. So for someone to go beyond taking public opinion and saying, yes, the public have decided, the citizens who donated their power to me have said that they don't want this bill. They have rejected the bill. And just refusing and just saying, yes, they have rejected, yes, I agree. I've heard you, and let's reject it. So instead of rejecting it, he's going ahead and killing Kenyans. So, and if you look at the bill, like, you see some of the clauses, like how much they have allocated to first lady, second lady. These are people that you wonder, like, which programs. We are talking about a government, an institution which has so many departments. If they are going to fight for, if they are going to advocate for, if the first ladies allocated money to maybe advocate for women issues, we have Department of Women and Children. If it is drugs, we have Nakada. We have state structures to carry out all those social functions. So for us, we are saying that if you ask, that some of the budget is uncalled for. So just reject the bill and stop killing Kenyans. And we are calling international community, we are calling people who are in diaspora to listen to what the country is saying, and let us condemn the killings of innocent souls. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wakanda, and we hope to be engaging later on. Mabibi na mabwana, naomba tafadhali tutamatishie hapo. Tutakuwa tunarejea kwa muda usiokuwa mrefu na mazungumzo mengine ya vijana ili tukaelewane vizuri. Lakini tunakuomba mahala pote ulipo, please stay safe. The people in Kidurai and other parts where you have been visited by the wrath of Ruto and team, please let us know, update us. We will be able to relay our information as soon as possible. But what we seek is to get Kenya back on track. Where it is now is the wrong place, and the leaders are let down. A let down, especially veteran leaders like Wetangula, like Musalia Mudavadi, people who've been on the forefront of the leadership of this country, who know the gravity and the necessity of this country holding together and the safeguarding of the youth. If they're in support of what is happening, then it's very unfortunate. I understand that the parliament has authorized the deployment of military. Which parliament? When did it sit? When did it take the vote? Or they are imagining things? We'll be weighing on that later on in the subsequent shows. But more than that, please tuendelee kulike video, kushare na kusubscribe. Recruit mtu wawili watatu wa subscribe ili tunapoanza shows tukue kila mmoja anamakinika na anapata mambo jinsi yalivyo. So God bless you. Thank you. Let's link up later on in the next program. Let us do it as it is required. Asante sana.
Watch, share, like, subscribe.